There it is, everybody. 50-week moving average in blue, crossing below that 200-week moving average. It will be making all of the headlines this week. It's probably the headline of the week in terms of Bitcoin technical analysis. I want to break it down. I want to explain why I think while a lot of the headlines probably going to be saying this is extremely bearish, I want to explain why I think it's extremely bullish. And I just want to be open with my thoughts about it. It's going to be a pretty quick Bitcoin technical analysis video as we begin this brand new week right now. If you like these quicker videos, please hit that like button for me, hit the subscribe, and let's just jump into it. First things first, I want to zoom out on the monthly chart because since we are zooming in on this weekly move, this thing on the zoomed in charts where we're going to see all these headlines, it's important to get some context. Let's pull in the rest of the story. Let's pull in the rest of the data. And I'm not even going to look into all these other indicators and bullish indicators. I'm just going to talk about one thing. We look at the monthly zoomed out chart. We're in between these halvings, similar to being in between halvings prior, where we're bottoming out in bear markets. The consistency on this chart is so powerful. And this is a cycle perspective. This is the zoomed out cycle perspective. All in here right now is what we're about to look at on the weekly. What's going on, but this is what the monthly is looking like, everybody. You go to the RSI, the slower moving momentum oscillator, this is what that's looking like. We are in this bottoming out. We're not obviously below this oversold range, but as far as the data is concerned, we're oversold in Bitcoin, kind of putting in this bottoming range. It's the cycle shift from bear to bull. That's important context for everything we're about to discuss. We go to the weekly chart and let's do this. This is the 50-week moving average crossing below the 200-week. Let me explain why I think it's bullish. First things first, I want to show you something. If we zoom out and we go back to this dip, the COVID dip, March 2020, I want to point something out to you. This helps from a visualization perspective. 20-day moving average crossing below the 20-week moving average crossing below the 50-week moving average. Green crossing below the blue. This, and I'm sure the headlines probably were calling this incredibly bearish, right? And the reason why is because it is a bearish move. It's a weekly moving average crossing below, and it's actually a moving average. If you look at this, this is a moving average. When this happens, this marks the beginning of bear markets. You can see the previous time that happened. That's the beginning of the bear market. You can actually go to see the beginning of this last bear market. You can see the 20-week crossing below the 50-week. Very bearish in terms of bear cycles. But it's bearish because where we are in cycles. It's bearish because where Bitcoin is, it just put in an all-time high. It's overbought on the oscillators, right? It's overvalued. So that's why it's bearish. Now, when it's happening at a time like this, it's a different story. 20-week moving average crossing below the 50-week moving average. It's not indicating this multi-month crazy bear market type of deal for Bitcoin. Quite the opposite. It's a picture of something bad happening. That's what that is. And you can see how very quickly the 20-week moving average kind of leveled out and the whole thing turned around very quickly. So that's just to give you just this visualization of how moving averages don't always work the same exact way. A lot of it depends on other indicators. A lot of it depends on timeline and where we are in cycles. And a lot of it depends on momentum. So this did visualize and kind of indicate a really bad thing happening, right? Happened pretty quick. This, I think, indicates a bad thing happening. This, for me, illustrates that the worst is over. This is happening because of the worst being over, because of everything that just transpired, because of that crazy year, over a year worth of time that we just went through as crypto holders. That's why this is happening. Now, I very much think the possibility for this to very quickly level out is very much in play. I don't think it's going to be this crazy bearish thing where it's just like, oh man, look at that, and Bitcoin's just going like this capitulation type of multi-month crazy 2023 winter. I don't think that. Could it happen? It possibly could. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not going to happen. I have no idea. But this is how I see the charts. It's how I see the data. This is the chart that I think is important. It's a daily chart. So this illustrating the worst is over, and this on the daily illustrating the beginning of a new cycle, the shift from bear to bull. And it's this. It's the 20-day moving average crossing above the 50-day, the 200-day in green. So you see that happening. Most recently, the 50-day crossing above the 200-day in red. So you see these bullish moves. And if we go back here, the reason why this is bullish is because, again, from a cycle perspective, this is Bitcoin falling below the 786 line in red, that macro Fibonacci bear market low area, popping right out of it. And if we go back here, I want to go all the way back to the last bear market as Bitcoin's kind of exiting. And this is what it looked like. You can see Bitcoin, 20-day moving average crossing above the 50 and then the 200, and then the 50-day crossing above the 200 in red. So all these moving averages cruising to the upside. It's a very similar environment where we are right now after breaking the 786 line. Very similar environment. One thing I want to note is this. Check out, Bitcoin had a nice run and then it started consolidating. And look at the moving averages, just all kind of just flowing together, compressing back together, meeting each other, crossing up and down all over the place. Consolidation. The reason I bring that up is this back here, incredibly bullish move for the bear market kind of being over in the same sense as I think this is becoming. But just note, there's still room for these to intertwine and to compress with each other. There's still room for Bitcoin to come down. There's still room for volatility. And that's the biggest thing I'm watching right now. Namely, I'm watching the 786 area absolutely to the downside. I want to see if that's retested, what happens there. Is there support? If we take our Fibonacci from the swing low that we had back here to swing high, we've talked about this in a previous video. It is a shorter term 786 at that macro 786. So that area is so interesting to me, $17,000 area for an environment where Bitcoin's falling. And a lot of this has to do with what's going on over here on the stock market, S&P 500 chart. How are markets opening this week? You know, is there going to be a pop to the upside, or are some of these moving averages supports going to fail? And is this coming down? If that's the case, we really should strongly monitor potential downside for Bitcoin. First area of support I do just want to mention in this video are these moving averages, the 50-day moving average, the 200-day moving average, right around $19,000 to $20,000 if Bitcoin were to fall in that area. That's that first area of shorter term support. And in this just a macroeconomic negative scenario, right? We get a month of just bad press across markets. There's fear. What happens if Bitcoin does fall to the 786 line, 20% or so to the downside? Want to see, because that's a very interesting retest from a cycle perspective. But this is what I'm looking at. I think this is marking the end of something brutal, and it's just a picture of that. That is it. Now, right now, there's going to be potential volatility, maybe to the upside to test those moving averages, maybe to the downside to test a 20-week moving average, 786. There's going to be a lot of volatility in store. We have to track that, monitor it. This isn't really so much a shorter term video, but I wanted to really bring up this 50-week moving average. Those are my thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, everybody. I appreciate you. Hope you have a good start to the week. I'll see you in the next video. God bless.